Hello, it's Azir Thatcher here from successfulpropertyinvestmentsecrets.com. Today, I have a very special guest who's going to talk to you about some of the overcoming some of the issues, some of the hurdles that face many landlords, whether you own properties yourself or you're just getting started with an investment strategy such as HMOs or rent to rent, something along those lines. So I'm going to open up a nice little presentation that I've prepared for you guys, and just do that now. And then I'm going to share my screen so you can actually see what on earth it is I'm talking about. If this is your first time on a webcast or Hangout or something like that, you'll notice that if you're watching it from the YouTube channel or the event page, you'll notice that on the, I think it's this side, this side here, there'll be some questions. There's a chat box. Feel free to enter any of your questions or comments and stuff like that. We'll try and address it during the call. Obviously, this is new technology. This is live streaming technology, so there is a natural delay between what we show you on the screen and what we're talking about specifically. So please do bear with us with regards to that. If there's an issue with your sound, or perhaps the videos a little bit sketchy in parts, that can be fixed more often than not by simply refreshing your browser. If that doesn't work, then try using a different browser. If you're not using Google Chrome, try that one, or Firefox or something along those lines. But hopefully, fingers crossed, everything's going to go nice and smoothly for us today. So first things first, you need to see.
I see there's quite a problem with it. It keeps overlapping for some reason.
Oh, hello. Right, can you see my screen now? Okay. So right now you should be seeing the first slide. So Oliver, can you see that?
Yeah, I've got a bit of a problem because it's actually playing over twice for some reason, so I can still hear your voice talking. So.
Oh yes. So in the background, you've probably got another window open, and if you close that window, perhaps one of the event pages, then that's why you're hearing a double thing then.
No, I can't. Hang on a second. Yeah, I can see it absolutely fine. Yeah.
Oh, so you can hear me okay? You can see my screen okay? Yeah.
Oh. I've still got the talk over. Sorry.
Oh. So I think, yeah, like I said, that's probably because you've got two. You should have most likely two windows open. So you're going to have to keep the main one open and shut the other one down. And don't forget to unmute yourself as well so that we can hear you.
Well, I can hear that. Yeah, that's fine. So let's have a quick look. Hopefully we'll get there.
Please bear with us, people. This is new technology here. And using it for the first time.
Yeah, fingers crossed that should be fine. I'm hoping I'm not hearing it twice now, which is the main thing. So
Brilliant.
Yeah, so go on. That should be fine.
Fantastic. Right. Now let's get going. So, as I said already, my name is Azir Thatcher from successfulpropertyinvestmentsecrets.com, where investors confess their best kept secrets, tips, resources, and systems that help anyone to quickly build an income stream from property. And on today's wonderful show, I have the lovely pleasure of welcoming Oliver Medic onto the webcast. So hello, Oliver, how are you?
Yeah, well, after that wonderful introduction, lovely. Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much. I'll play that back to my mum so she can hear it. Okay. Yeah, very good. Thank you. Very good.
Brilliant. So, Oliver, for those who don't actually know who you are or who Advanced Rent, your company, are, could you give just a quick overview introduction as to yourself and what you do at Advanced Rent?
Yeah, no problem at all. We'll start with myself. Obviously, Oliver Medic. I have been working for Advanced Rent for the last 2 years. was brought in to basically take the products to the mass market. We've got some wonderful products which we'll be talking about today, but it was very much kind of an unknown quantity until about a couple of years ago, and we've been bringing those to the market. What Advanced Rent are is we are a supplier of insurance-based products to the landlord sector, and that we've also built basically a bespoke set of products as well to the rent-to-rent market. All of we're FCA regulated. All our products are underwritten by DAS, which is Europe's largest insurer. So what I was brought in to do was to really kind of make everyone aware that there was other options within the market, maybe than the standard deposit they'll be paying, the kind of rent guarantee policies they were taking out, to try and maximise their kind of business model that they're going to be trying to build. So,
brilliant. Okay, so my first question then is, what is the name of your sort of main product, and why on earth did you decide to make it?
Okay, well, the business was built around a product called Rent in Advance. Now, that's where we started. That was some 5.5, 6 years ago. It was a product where you had the ability to release your 6 months rent in one go, get paid that less a fee, which took out the risk of non-payment, late payments, or voids from your tenant. It also allowed the landlord to use that capital they had then released to use for other projects, purchasing for other properties or anything like that. And that was really how Advanced Rent started. Now, from that, when we went into the market, it was very clear there was a need for other products. And the other products that were developed very quickly were a kind of rent guaranteed product, a rent guaranteed with home emergency, which is unique, no deposit insurance, which again is very, very evident to what we were going to be talking about today, and also rent guaranteed, which is where you're guaranteeing your rent on a monthly basis for either multiple rooms or for individual properties. So that's kind of how the business developed very, very quickly. We, as I say, we went to DAS with our set of products that we had. They were very keen, and they took them on board, and we worked very closely with them, with all developing all of our products in ongoing.
And again, for those that don't already know, what is DAS?
DAS is, well, it's DAS, which are our insurer. Basically, they underwrite all of our insurance products. If you were to look at them online, they are an absolutely massive insurance company based in Europe. They underwrite an awful lot of products within the UK, and they are specialists in the property insurance market.
Brilliant. So the case of if anything were to go wrong or whatever, then they are the ones that are underwriting it. They're the ones that are paying out. Is that
absolutely
right?
Yeah? We're the claims agent. So if anything, any of our products, you have a problem with, obviously is why they're there. But if you were to have a claim on that, you refer to us first. We then deal with the claim, deal directly with DAS, and then we can pay out very, very quickly. And we have a very, very simplified claims process for anyone who is in the unfortunate circumstances of having to use it. So.
Okay, brilliant. So that kind of follows on to the next question, really, which is, can you provide some examples of how, for example, your products can benefit specifically the investors today?
Yeah. In relation to rent, or how would you?
Yeah, so if we do one for, so a couple of examples for rent to rent, for example, and then maybe one for someone who's doing who's not involved with rent to rent, that'd be
Absolutely. If we start with the rent-to-rent market, now, one of the things, again, I'm sure we've got a few rent-to-renters listening to this, but one of the major things with a rent-to-renter is to appeal to landlords and to make sure that they have their landlord's trust when they're taking on a property. Now, the two products that fit perfectly with this, one is our rent guaranteed product, which in the event of there being a problem and the rent-to-renter not paying the landlord the rent, would kick in, would cover the landlord for the said rent until legal occupation was obtained with the property. So that's a very powerful one. So the landlord can be reassured from that particular person that there wasn't going to be a problem. The other one is no deposit insurance, which is completely unique to ourselves. It's not a warranty. It's an insurance-backed product that insures the landlord for a deposit pot. basically. So instead of the rent-to-renter putting down, let's hypothetically say, a £2,500 deposit on a £1,500 a month rent, for example, you would take out a product policy with ourselves, which would probably increase your cash flow by around £2,000 just for that particular property. But the policies in the landlord's name gives them full security, and also takes out the way in which we say it basically is it readdresses the balance within the deposit market. In the event of there being a problem, the landlord does not have to fight for his money from the tenant. All they have to do is prove that that money is due. So, for example, if there had been a non-payment of rent, or if there had been damage at the property, all the landlord or the letting agent would have to do is prove to us that that was the case, and then we pay out. And we look to pay out within 14 days, which is
Brilliant.
obviously significantly quicker than a DPS, My Deposits, or a TDS, where there is the dispute process in place. And also, even when there isn't a dispute process, can take months to actually get the landlord back in a financially position they needed to be in.
So if I'll give you a real worked example for myself. I recently went to a letting agent, told him that I did company lettings, and they had a property advertised that it was great for sharers or for companies. So I took on this 5-bedroom house. The rent was £800 a month, and they wanted 1 month's rent in advance at £800. They wanted a month's deposit at another £800, plus another £100 on top of that. And there was some other searches to be done as well, like their admin fee, which was, I think, another £400. So there's at least in all of that, there's the £800 plus their additional £100 on top that I had to then find to then pay out. But using your deposit replacement insurance service, you're saying that I can actually now obtain a house like this by, instead of me shelling out the £800 and paying it to the letting agent, I can then instead get a insurance product for you that sits in place of that £800 cash. And what's some of the other advantages of that? Because I understand if the landlord gets cash, it sits here with My Deposits and stuff like that, as you just said. But there are some other advantages as well of doing it through your insurance, isn't it?
Well, obviously, if you're only paying a month's deposit, you're doing quite well these days, because a lot of certainly London-based properties are asking for a month and a half, and sometimes even 2. So the
Right.
cash would be quite significant that you'd have to put down. So, for example, just with that example, I've just briefly done some figures. So instead of paying, you'd have your £800 a month and £800 deposit. So you're looking at £1,600 straight away.
Mhm.
Whereas if you were to do deposit insurance, you'd be looking at, yes, the £800 rent. You can't get away from that
Mm.
unless you've negotiated something different. But you'd have, our policy would be around £185, but that
Right.
would give the landlord the equivalent of a £1,400, 1,400. Sorry, that's incorrect. Yeah, a £1,250 deposit.
So that's
So
about
it's
6 weeks.
actually, yeah, around 6 weeks. So it's £1,200. So it's a month and a half. Now, obviously, what that does straight away is, this is a smaller example, it increases your cash flow by just over £600 for that property.
Mm.
But also the landlord's got more cover.
Yeah.
So if you took the example of, our average one we tend to deal with in London is £1,500
Right.
rental. So the deposit's going to be 2,200.
Right.
So if you did 2,000, a second, 2,050. So you'd be looking at a premium of around £500 for that.
Mhm.
So yeah, so £1,500. So 1 second.
So whilst you're doing your calculations there, just to kind of
Yep.
clarify things for the listeners, what we're basically saying is, instead of actually having to stump up large amounts of money to put down as a deposit in order to get a house, which, let's face it, just sits in someone's account as dead money and doesn't do anything until either the tenancy ends or there needs to be a claim made. So that money's just sat there dead. Whereas what you're saying with this deposit replacement insurance is that literally we as the company let, or the tenant as it were, pay a premium to your company, which is in the region of in your example, you're saying it's a it's
Well,
a what, £1,500 house. So
yeah,
you're
it's a
only
reason
paying a
why
premium of about,
one week's rent. That's right. It's
right.
it could have 1 week's rent. So.
So you're only paying a week's rent, which is you say £300 in your example?
Yeah, for example, for a £1,500 a month property, so that's what I was just quickly working out. £1,500 a month property, that would be equivalent of a £2,250 deposit,
Mhm.
hypothetically. So our premium would be £375.
Brilliant.
So just with that property alone, you'd be looking at an increased cash flow of £1,875.
So instead of
Um,
dropping the £2,500 and leaving it in as dead money somewhere, instead we're just buying an insurance from yourself for just under £400, which then allows the investor to move on, move into the property, do whatever it is that they need to do, and saving themselves another £1,800, which in effect could then allow you to then go on and get another similar property.
Yeah, it really does, and that's what I say. Because rent-to-renters tend to start with a core amount of money, and they're
Mm.
trying to get the best properties to get their cash flow rolling with a set amount of money. What this policy does, it allows to still secure the landlords and attract the landlords correctly, but also to increase their cash flow massively with and get more properties on, and that's because a rent-to-rent property tends to be. Um, I say a multi-room property, and certainly where you're looking to get the best yields, you're going to be looking at over £1,000 per calendar month potentially for the property. So the
Mm.
deposits you're having to put down 6 weeks, a month and a half, £1,500 every single time, plus the must rent, plus fees. You're not going to get much change out of £3,000 per property. But
Mm.
with this, you're looking at a massive increase in your cash flow on every single property you'd be doing.
Brilliant. That's why I just wanted to take the time, the extra time, to kind of really labour that point um, onwards, because not everybody knows about this deposit replacement. Now, you mentioned that it's an insurance, not a warranty. Can
Yeah.
I just ask what the difference between the two is?
Very straightforward. A warranty is not unregulated.
Mm.
So, in the event, and there has been the unfortunate in the news, even this year, one of the major warranty providers went under,
Mm.
and left a lot of people with basically pieces of paper in front of them that were worthless.
Yeah.
But we are insurance based, we're regulated. So, in the event of something, it's not going to happen. If the event of something happened to us, you have the backup of one, the FCA, and then DAS. And if something was to happen to DAS, you have the FCA. So
Yeah.
you're always going to have the fallback position of a regulated party. And
Brilliant.
that is, it really does mark us out as it's chalk and cheese basically
Mm.
between the products. Warranties have had a bit of a bad rap, and in some ways, we wouldn't offer a warranty with these products because you do need the backup of it being an insurance product. So.
Okay, so the next question I would ask you then is how long does it actually to take to settle this up? So I've got a property, I really want to get it before someone else does. Been with the agent, he's laid out all the figures. They're open to having a insurance deposit, replacement insurance, as opposed to me paying cash. So how long does it take from when I contact you guys to then set everything up?
Again, it's a reason I'm hesitating for that is the major thing that needs to be done is we need to get all the information in. So if I've got the information, so say for example you rang me and said, Oliver, I've got a property, the landlord's name is this, the property address is this, sorry, the landlord's name, property address is this, the landlord's address is this, the rental amount's this, they've agreed to do no deposit insurance.
Mm.
The referencing's been done on myself or my company. I can issue it pretty well on the phone. I can get it all
Right.
done. I can issue that policy and get it set up to you. So it's a very straightforward process once the initial bit's been done. The biggest hurdle is getting the landlord to agree to do it and the agent to landlord and or agent to understand what the product does and actually to go against the grain of what is deemed to be the standard way, which is physically paying a deposit. Once you've got over that hurdle, now I'll go into how I can help with that
Yeah.
later, but once you go over that hurdle. The actual issuing of the policy is a very straightforward process.
So simply contact yourself, saying this is the property, and this is sort of my details, as it were.
Yeah.
Um,
We go through an
that's
online application as such. We go through a verbal application on the phone. We take all the
yeah,
details from you, and on that basis, I could issue policies over to you. Payment can be made by backs, can be made by chaps, can be made over the phone by
yeah,
card. What we try and avoid is people paying by credit card because there's a credit card fee on top of that, and we don't like
right,
to charge it.
yeah,
So we try, we will take it if we have to, but we try and direct people away from that if possible, because it's just an additional cost that they don't need to incur. Um, so it's a very I've had one, for example, in between meetings today. I've had
mm,
someone ring up, can you issue this policy? Yes, no problem. Can you get the referencing done? Yes, we'll do the referencing today. So the referencing will be completed today because they've got all the information, and the policy will be issued before 5 o'clock. They need it
oh
by
wow,
lunchtime tomorrow. But
yeah,
that's a really good example. There has
mm,
been examples where for one reason or another it's taken longer than that, but no two properties are the same, are they? So.
sure, of course. So, what can listeners do right now to sort of benefit from the information that they've received so far? Is there a tip or a golden nugget you can share with the listeners right now that they can apply to their business?
I think the simplest one is to use me. I'm here. The way in which I work for the company, and the other people here as well, is I work as a basis to be an assistance to their business. So
Mm,
if any of your listeners have a property they are considering or looking into or wanting to know how I can do how the costing can be affected, then
mm,
they just email me, to ring me, to use me as a consultant basis, or helping them put their business forward to a letting agent. I'm more than happy to talk to anyone. I'm more than happy to talk to landlords, to letting agents, to try and just, get over the information that's needed in relation to the products that we've got, to give them the best possible chance to be able to use these products for going forward with their business. And to actually not think small fried in relation to just think, you have this backup resource, which is ourselves, to
mm,
actually use that and not be afraid to ask and email me and say, Oliver, ring this agent. It's regarding this, about this policy, and I'll then ring them and I'll refer back to them about what they've said, because it takes the pressure off your listeners, and also it takes the pressure off anyone else who's going to see the video with regard to explaining these products. Because the first time you talk about it, you're not going to understand it. Two or three properties, four properties down the road, you're going to go, oh, do you know what? This is simple, no problem at all. But you need the backup of me, ongoing forever if you wish, but certainly early doors, just so you give yourself the best opportunity when presenting it to landlords or letting agents.
So if I were to try and relay this to a, say I've got a landlord, I went direct to landlord, and I were to say three things as to why a deposit replacement insurance is better than me just giving him cash. Uh,
Yeah.
what three things might I say to him?
Okay. Number one is it's in their name, so they have control of it. So the landlord has control of that insurance policy. Number two, there's no dispute process, so he's not going to have the tenant saying, "Oh no, I didn't break that. It was like that already." It's not going to happen. And number three, very simply, is the fact that actually it's I only get 3 points if I'm honest with you. But number three is the fact it pays out so much quicker. So if the landlord, has not had a last month's rent or anything like that, then it pays out so much quicker. And instead of the landlord having to fund that money for a period of time, they get the money, through the insurance policy to pay for either their mortgage, the damage, or anything it might be. So it really does kind of reassure them massively that in the event of there being a problem, it can be addressed very quickly. And in times where potential mortgage rates are going to go up, whatever might happen, it's becoming very evident that landlords need to know that actually in the event of there being a problem, they have this backup. And that's what you can offer them using this product and all our other products as well. So.
Brilliant. Okay, so I guess the other question that a lot of people are going to ask is how much does it cost? What are the sort of monies involved with, let's say, for example, I've got a house that's the rent is £1,000 a month. That's what I'm paying to the landlord.
Yeah. Okay, so you'd be looking at a equivalent deposit of say £1,500, but on the £1,000 rent, you'd be looking at a policy price of £250. and that would then give the landlord the benefit of a £1,500 deposit. Now, that basically is a very straightforward policy, and for all your listeners that are using it who contact me or mention your name, what we can do, and it's quite exclusive to you guys, we can offer a bit of a discount of that as well. So we can
Brilliant.
probably offer an online, from this basis, offering a 10% discount on all policies that we are issuing from the basis that obviously mention yourself on it as well. So it is very good and correct for the finances to do this. So
No, thank you very much. Just as you were talking, I think some other audio came in there, but just to make that clear to everybody. So if you have a property where the rent is about £1,000 a month, then you're saying it's essentially around about a week's worth
rent,
of
yeah.
rent is what the policy will be. So on that particular example, it'd be somewhere in the region of about £250. If they mention myself as Zur Thatcher or successful property investment secrets.com when they contact you guys, you're very, very kind enough to offer them a discount there.
Yeah, I think it's right because it'd be good to know, obviously, what feedback we're getting from this side of things, which is great for both of us.
Yeah,
And yeah, I think certainly what we're keen to do is get people using these products. It's like anything; it's getting serious traction out in the market now. It's being used
sure.
quite well out there. So yeah, we're very keen to do that, and certainly yeah, we'd be very happy to honour that, not just for one policy, but
Mhm.
ongoing. As many policies they use us for, that'll just be honoured here till next 5 years. It's not a
Brilliant.
problem. So.
And you cover anybody, any UK person anywhere in the country. Is that correct?
Absolutely right. Yeah, UK. And as I say, it's depending whether you're doing it as a commercial agreement, a management agreement, or anything like that. Then we're
Okay,
more than happy to be able to issue the policies on the back of that.
brilliant. Okay, and what are the other costs involved? Because I understand you said um, obviously the policy is about a week's worth of rent, but I
Yeah.
understand you said there's some sort of referencing involved as well. So,
Yeah,
um,
the referencing is included. Could we include referencing when you take any other product with us? So
right.
if you are taking out no deposit insurance, then the referencing is included. So there's no additional cost there. Something I must just point out with regard to the policies is there's no excess.
Mhm.
And there's no kind of cooling off or lead-in time to the
Oh,
policy. The policy is active from day one,
yeah.
and I say there's no excess required. The only thing with no deposit insurance is there's a minimum claim of £150,
Mhm.
and that's just really to stop any kind of silly claims, silly
Yeah.
landlord claims, and it happens. We all know what we're talking about when I say that. But and it can also be a combination of not just rent, not just damage, or a combination of both. It can
Mm.
be either or, a combination of both. We cover anything. We don't charge administration fees or anything like that. So the cost of the policy is the cost of the policy. There's no other
Brilliant.
costs involved in relation to issuing that.
So there's actually two ways to use this. There's the one for those who are doing rent to rent and looking, they've only got a small amount of seed capital. So to maximize that, instead of paying out hefty deposits, they buy your product, and that's a way that they can save some money. And then there's the second side of this, which I don't think we've quite truly highlighted on this call, is we actually, if you've got a tenant that comes in and perhaps they've come from maybe another country and they're like a doctor that's come over here, or perhaps they're doing some IT and they've been living in one house for 6 months or a year, and they now want to move into your house, but the house that they were living in was perhaps a family member, so they don't, whilst they may have had a few bills go to that address, because they actually haven't necessarily the rent, the tenancy's not in their name, they can't really say that, oh, this is my house, I can't really provide you with a reference at all. Is that someone that you might be able to help out? So I'm a landlord, I own the property or whatever, and I've got a tenant coming in, and I want to make it more appealing to them, so I'm more competitive in the marketplace. I can then put on my adverts, I don't charge any deposit. I just wrap in your cost of your service in as an admin fee, and I want to get this particular type of tenant into one of my properties. Is that something that you can help with as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you've got two sides to the no deposit insurance or the product. Basically, you've got the deal between yourself and the landlord, and then you've got your deal between yourself and the people you then individually rent the rooms to. Now, as long as the rooms are under ASTs, that we can credit check the person. I understand if they haven't been in the country very long, there's other checks we can do to see if they can pass, and they're in a particular position to be able to pass. If they really are, you know, struggling to get to the score that's required to pass, then we would potentially require a guarantor. But if
Mhm.
you've got a tenant there that one way or the other would be able to pass, then yes, you'd be able to offer them the no deposit insurance. Now, depending on what you're renting those particular rooms out for, the policy price would come down quite significantly. So, say for example, it's around £600, then the policy would only be £120 for the no deposit insurance.
Brilliant. So you could literally say something like in one of your adverts, it's a first month's rent. There's an admin fee of about 150 or whatever it is, which will cover your policy there and any other incidentals. And there's no deposit. So that means a room that was rented for £600, instead of a tenant having to pay £1,200 upwards to rent the room, they're able to rent the room from you for just £720, which is a means you can then it makes you and your room a lot more attractive and a lot more competitive in the marketplace compared to everyone else who's doing the standard 1 month's rent and a month and a month and a half as a deposit.
Yeah, and also the great thing about it is it kind of it appeals to tenants massively regarding a kind of obviously not paying so much, and it's not a case they can't afford it, but it's a case of
Mm,
what's best for the particular tenant and yourself. Because actually, by taking the policy out, you're actually protecting yourself a lot more. So it must never be looked at a way to just so to attract the tenants who can't afford a deposit. That's completely not the way to look at it. What it
mm.
does is it opens up the tenant market, and but also by massively protecting you as that said landlord for that person. So
So no more headaches with some disputing this and that and the other and going through my deposits or TDS or whatever. Literally, this is what the room was like before you took it on. Here's all the carpet stains and marks on the walls and damaged furniture that you created, and here's the evidence. I present it to your company, and I get a payout.
yeah, absolutely, and it's a very simple thing. It's proving the where it was started with either an inventory, any inspections that have been done, and then the damage. And if the damage is, you just get two quotes on letterhead to say this is what it would cost to replace it, i.e. carpets, whatever it might be.
Mm,
Produce all the evidence to us, and then obviously the payout. Now, the great thing about it is because a landlord or a beneficiary of that policy, the renter, is knows that they are going to benefit from a payout if they can get all the evidence together. They're
mm.
very highly motivated to do it quickly.
Yeah,
So they gather the information, get it over to us, and then from that point of view, we can then deal with the claim very quickly.
brilliant, brilliant stuff. Okay, so moving on. Um, if the homeowner did need to actually make a claim, you touched on some of the things there, like the proofs, but what exactly do they need to send to you to make the claim, and how long is it that it how long does it take to before the claim's settled?
Okay, the major thing is the starting point is the fact that if they think there's going to be a claim, they
Mhm.
have to let us know within 30 days. So that's
Right.
standard for any insurance company. The fact that, right, okay, I think there's a problem here, ring up us, even if it's just a tentative phone call, Oliver or someone within the office. Look, I've got this policy. I think I'm going to have to make a claim on it. That means they've abided by that information.
Mhm.
So, in relation to there's been non-payment of rent, they just have to prove the void.
Mm.
So, be it through bank statements, be it through their letting agent, be it for anything else they may do, just prove the void. Look, I've received every single month. They've stopped. Okay, and then we would then take it on from there to try and resolve it and then pay out. In relation to damage, again, you just have to be able to prove where the room started and where it's ended up. So obviously, the easiest way to do that is an inventory. So you've got an inventory at the beginning, you've got the damage maybe that's happened, and you can say, look, hang on a second, photographic evidence says, look, that door wasn't smashed when you took the property on, or whatever it might be. You get two quotes to replacement of that door, you pass it through to us, and then we would be able to add that to the claim or deal with it independently. And that is something so it's a very, very simple process to do that.
Okay, that's wonderful to hear actually, because oftentimes people are a bit weary when it comes to insurance, but they because um, there is a bit of a stigma that insurance companies look for ways to not pay out, and you're just saying, look, if you've got, just show us the proof that this is a valid claim, and we're happy to pay out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, our terms and conditions for our insurance, a lot, if you look at the kind of the small print, as people call it,
Mm.
for other people who are out there, it's kind of 15, 20 pages, whereas ours is four. So it's very simple to go through it, to understand it. And the great thing is, at any point, you can pick up the phone to us, talk to us about the policy, understand the policy, about what you're taking out and the benefits to it. We did not set these policies up not to pay out. What we set these policies up was to readdress the balance and give people another option.
Mm.
That's why we've set them up, and
Brilliant.
that it seems to be doing very well.
Good stuff. Now, we've talked quite a lot about the deposit replacement insurance, and I am cautious of the time, respectful of other people's times that they've got here. But could you touch on some of the other things that you do? So you do some advanced tenant referencing, you've got there. Also, I understand you do rent guarantee, and you also have a product around rent in advance. So could you just, kind of briefly summarize what each of those services is and what they actually do?
Yeah, we offer five main products. Obviously tenant referencing is kind of does what it says on the tin.
Mhm.
But we only do one form of reference, which is a full reference.
Right.
It basically it deals with the employment, it deals with any right to rent regulations, it deals with their employment status to make sure they are in full-time employment, or if they are contracted, that contract covers the full period of the tenancy agreement that you're offering them.
Mhm.
Obviously, ID checks, address checks, the whole everything. There's nothing else you'd require, and then on the basis of that, you can then offer all the insurance products. I
Mhm.
must state just at this point very quickly: if you do your referencing elsewhere,
Mhm.
as long as it's a past reference, i.e., it's gone through, you can bring that to us, and all of our products will then be available. We do not force people to use our referencing service to take out our products. So that's just something I just wanted to kind of clear up.
No, that's good to know.
Um, the rent in advance is, as I said, I kind of touched on earlier, is the primary one that we started with. It allows a landlord to bring their property to us. So if there's any people there doing rent to rent who've got their own properties, they could bring a portfolio of properties to us that they own and say, look, Oliver, I've got three properties. I need to release rent I need to release the next 6 months rent on them. Can you do this? And then we'd go through the process of releasing 6 months rent to the landlord, and then we'd be responsible for collecting the rent back from the tenant. If the tenant didn't pay or was late paying, then that would be absorbed by us, and the landlord therefore wouldn't feel the pain of non-payments or late payments or anything like that. The
Brilliant.
other ones we haven't got logos on there. There's a couple of other products. You've got your rent guaranteed premium,
Mhm.
which is basically an off-the-shelf product that ensures the landlord in the event of a potential problem. Now, that potential problem is going to be non-payment of rent. It covers non-payment of rent for the whole period until we get legal possession back of the property. It also covers the process of the eviction and all legal costs up to £50,000.
Right.
There is no excess in this. There is no cooling off period, and we do not ask the people at the landlord to use the deposit as part of the claim, unlike some of our competitors who
Mm.
actually, when you add it up, the actual period of cover that you're actually paying for is not what you actually think you're paying for. Whereas if you
Mm.
buy a 12-month policy from us, you are getting 12 months cover and then more.
And
Um,
that's called
rent,
guaranteed
guar-
rent.
rent guaranteed premium.
Right.
The logo's not on here, but
Mm.
as I said, I'm not going to spell my details at the end. But if anyone
Yeah.
wants additional information, I'm happy to package everything through and send everything to everyone at the end. It's no problem at all. Very happy to.
Brilliant.
And the other one, which works really well with rent to rent, is what's called rent guaranteed.
Mhm.
Now, this is where we take on the responsibility of collecting the rent. Now, say, for example, hypothetically, if you're a rent renter and you have 5 properties and all the rent is due on the first of the month,
Mhm.
on the first of the month, we'd pay you all the rent you are due. So if it's £5,000, £10,000, they'd hit your bank account, less our fee, which is 6%. And then for that, we would then also collect all the rent off the tenants. And that would cover any void periods, it would cover any late payments, and it really allows the rent renter or general landlord to manage their own cash flow.
Right.
And that's a very, very good product. So when you get to a rent size and you're managing 10, 15, 20, 30 rooms, you really are going to start increasing. The more rooms you get, the more problems you're going to get, the more voids you're going to have, the more late payers you're going to have.
Hmm.
And therefore, that suddenly becomes a very much a full-time job and stops you expanding the business. That's when we can step in, even at low-level properties, and just kind of take on the whole lot, guarantee your rent to you every single month for that portfolio of properties or rooms, and then we take over the responsibility collecting the rent. If no one pays, you don't feel the pain of that. So that's a really powerful product. That.
Yeah, very, very good. I do like the rent in advance, which might have gone over a few people's heads. So I did want to come back to that.
Of
Um,
course, yeah.
you you mentioned that basically um, it's a service whereby someone can come to you with a rented out property, and they can release some up to 6 months rent in advance.
That's
Is
right.
that
Yeah.
correct?
Well, yeah. Well, what we do is we take a property on. So you bring
Hmm.
a for example, you bring £1,000 a month property to us.
Hmm.
Um, we would then look at the property. We would then credit check the tenants. We would then do the due diligence on the landlord to make, for example, just to make sure they own the property. Is usually a basic one.
Hmm.
We'd look at we started to make sure there wasn't any arrears and make sure there wasn't any major nasty sitting there, and then we would look to advance the 6 months rent to the landlord less our fee, which is 12.5%.
Right.
Now that then gives the landlord cash flow.
Hmm.
It takes away any risk of voids. It takes away any risk of late payments, and just gives them a constant cash flow. Now we do have a year contract. So
Hmm.
basically, we then collect the rent for the tenant over the next 6 months. On the seventh month, when
Hmm.
we've received this money from the tenant, their £1,000, we then release another 6 months to the landlord, um, less our fee. That again gives them increased cash flow.
Now this is interesting because it's not too dissimilar from what we were doing here with some of our student properties. So what happens is we have a HMO student property, and because we know students like to enjoy themselves when they're at university, we collect our rental payments on a termly basis instead of a monthly basis. Now, what that does is on their first payment, if you imagine you've got a 5 bedroom house or whatever, you collect 5 lots of payments for an entire term, which is like 3 or 4 months, which now then means you've got a big pot of money which you can then use to do other things with. So in your scenario, if you're renting to, doing you weren't renting to students, you're just renting to whoever, professionals, whatever, you've got them in there for a given amount of time. Using your rent in advance service, you could then take that money, that big pot of money, instead of them being students that they can get student loans and get the money on a termly basis, having to rely on that, they can just be normal tenants in a job, and then we can use your service, the rent in advance, to take 6 months worth of money, and then you can use that to go on and do rent to rent or buy as a deposit on another house or refurbishment work or whatever it is that you need to do to then reinvest back into your business. It's a way of releasing funds from a property to then reinvest anywhere
In
else
something
that you see
else.
fit. Yeah.
Exactly that. Like, if you own the property or you're renting out on whatever basis, we can look at doing a rent in advance on that, and then that allows you to use that capital to whatever you may wish to use it for,
So you could
and it really
potentially,
does.
yeah, I was gonna say you could potentially from that one property, 6 months worth of money, less whatever the fees are, 6 months worth of money is probably going to be enough to get you 2 or 3 or 4 additional properties and more income, which it
That's
sounds
it. And
fantastic.
instead of having a drip feed of profit, you get the profit in one lump. And it's like anything, is that if you have a drip feed of money, you just drip feed it away. But if you have a
Mm.
lump of money in your pocket, then you have much more inclination to actually do something. To make money makes money. So if you have a lump, you can then use it for the rent to rent or whatever you might want to do, and that then generates more income. So yeah, it's a very, very good product when people use it in the way it's designed. So
Well, that's the information you've given us today has been absolutely stellar. So thank you very much for that. But I
okay,
do know that there'll be, we can only cover so much of these things on the webcast. So I'm sure there'll be more questions flooding in after this webcast. And so, how is it best that people can get in contact with yourself?
Yeah, you've got obviously the main info advanced rent email there. If people are more than happy to email me directly, so if they just change the info to Oliver,
Mm.
Oliver at advanced rent, all lowercase.co.uk. That comes through directly to myself. And from that, I'm more than happy. I have basic information on each of our products. So it kind of has a step-by-step guide about what the product is, the benefits and everything like that. If people want key facts, example policies, we're more than happy to send those out so people can really get to grips with what the product is prior to them using it. So yeah, if they send information or request information to Oliver at advanced.co.uk, then I'll be, and mention obviously this is where they got the information from. And then I'm more than happy to answer any questions. On the bottom of that email, when I reply, will be my direct contact numbers, my mobile number, because I know that the rent to rent or deals don't just stop at 9 to 5. If people need to
Yeah.
contact me outside of normal working hours, I take calls all night long. It's not a problem. And as I say, if people want to speak to me, then I can normally answer the phone. Email me, I'll get a reply. And we also have a live chat on our website. So, if people go onto our website at www.advancedrent.co.uk, there's live chat on there as well. And you'll be able to just ask basic questions about our products on there if anyone wants to use that. So yeah, no, I very much look forward to hearing from people.
Oliver, thank you so much for your time today. It's been very, very insightful. The two things I personally love and know that I'm going to be using moving forward are, well, the three things really is your tenants referencing. I think is very competitively priced as well. For the in-depth amount that you're doing there, I've seen policies twice and three times the cost of yours. With regards to your deposit replacement insurance, I'm definitely think we're taking you up on that. I have used other companies in the past. Unfortunately, they have they're not around. So knowing that you're an insurance rather than warranty, and you're backed by such a huge underwriter, that excites me really with the possibilities moving forward. And I definitely love your rent in advance. Just the idea of being able to release some funds and get access to a big pot of money instead of having it on a drip feed. Get access to a big pot of money, which will allow me to get hold of more properties quicker and grow my portfolio
Yeah,
quicker. So I love that.
the,
Yeah.
they are all amazing products, and we're more than happy to speak to and obviously anyone who's listened to this today and moving forward in relation to their particular circumstances, because everyone's circumstances are different. So we're more than happy to spend the time with people. And of course, we've got our training day, which I'd like to invite everyone to, which is going to be around the end of November.
Yeah.
There'll be an invite come out. Obviously, I'll send it to you directly, so you can send it to your members as well. And that's where we really are having. That's going to be every quarter, so it's something which is going to be on a regular basis. And we'd be very keen to bring people along to that, to give them the personal kind of training and information they need moving forward. Plus, we'll have a workshop at the end where we'll talk to every single person individually, talk about their circumstances, and as I say, basically see where we can help, if we can help, which I'm sure we will be able to, with the products to kind of allow them to grow their business faster and without kind of huge amounts of their own money.
Wow. So that, I mean, that's really, really good. One of the things that's important when anyone's getting any part buying any product or service is support at the end of the day. And the fact that you're able to, they get hold of you on the phone, get hold of you on your website, advancedrent.co.uk, have a live chat. You're doing regular meetings and stuff like that and workshops. I think that just goes to show the level of care and how serious you're taking this. And I think that's brilliant. So hopefully our listeners will be taking you up on these your products in droves. So that'd be brilliant.
Yeah, very much look forward. Unfortunately, I'd have to see my face, but apart from that, that'll be fine. So
I'm sure that's fine. Okay, so to the listeners today, thank you very much for joining us today. If you like the video, please make sure you like it and share it on social media. Leave a comment below this video because we're always interested to know what you think. Um, and what other interviews and videos you'd like to see more of. My name's Azir Thatcher. This is successfulpropertyinvestmentsecrets.com. Feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more free videos. You can also see us on Facebook or on Google+. And we've got some direct links there on the screen for you to quickly access all of our online properties there. So thanks very much for listening, guys. And thank you very much, Oliver, for joining us today and sharing such valuable information.
You're very welcome. Nice to speak to you.
Thanks. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.